What's up, everybody? Welcome to Shared Screen's special edition podcast for House of the Dragon. This week's episode, second of his name. Man, this was a banger. I'm just saying, it's my favorite episode already. But we got a small, intimate podcast, just like Rhaenyra and Kristen Coleman by the fire. We got It's for Chance. Chance, introduce yourself.
My name's Chance. I edit here for Shared Screens, and I also think this was the best episode.
Let's go. And then we got Vegas Girl on Fire. Yeah. And so, I mean, so no book spoiler. We're only talking about the show, only plot developments for the folks watching that may know what happens 30 years in advance. But we are only talking about the show. But yeah, let's just get into episode discussion. I mean, because now we're all out of the way of all the prerequisite stuff. So we're just going to jump in right into the episode. Vegas, give me your elevator pitch review of this episode.
This episode was great. It had all the politics like last episode, but like add fuel. We jumped pretty far ahead. So, we're getting, maybe a little bit more adult perspectives in a way, with Rhaenyra growing up. And I just loved it. It was so good. So good.
Yeah. Chance, what did you think, man? Initial thoughts?
Spoiler free, or can I say stuff?
Let's do spoiler free for now.
Okay. I also thought the episode was probably like the best one. It moved the needle the most. I think that Rhaenyra really has a moment in this episode that I'm super stoked about, and there was a lot of people that had moments I was super stoked about, and I think that is the hallmark of a good episode.
Yeah For me, like I said at the very beginning, I think this was the best episode. I mean, like all the politicking, we got an awesome battle scene, so much symbolism and metaphors and any word you can think of to, mean more than what you see on the screen. It was really awesome. We got a party, it was just awesome music too.
Yeah.
There was two different music pieces at two different parts of the episode that really caught my ear, just where I stopped focusing on what was actually happening on the screen because it was just so overwhelming. Great cinematography, great shots of the beaches. Yeah, it was awesome. It was definitely my favorite episode. So we'll just jump right into plot by plot. You guys are looking at it right now. I kind of wrote too much stuff, but I was just writing just whatever was coming to my mind when I was skimming through the episode at the end. And so we'll just start off here, and then we can just jump in at different points whenever we feel like there's something meaty to discuss. The episode starts off with Daemon and Caraxes riding into battle. And like what most people expected, they kind of lay waste to a lot of the crab feeders' army. But the crab feeders' army and what was his name? Not Rhaegar, something like that. It was I forgot to write down his name.
Prince Drayon?
Drayon? But yeah, the crab feeder and his army prove a little more sneaky smart than initially anticipated, where they just retreat into the caves guerrilla warfare style.
You have to imagine they knew at any point a dragon's going to show up. We have to be able to handle that. And I don't know, maybe that's why they lasted so long, is because they had a little bit of foresight. Continue.
Yeah. And then we cut to.
Oh wait. So I thought you were going to continue talking about that scene.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, go ahead.
I really liked the squish death. I thought it was great. And then also this takes place not with after 3 years. This is much sooner, right? This is in between the time of the two episodes. That's what I thought they said in the post episode thing, but it could be wrong. Because I was under the impression that they were there.
I'm sure the war has been going on for a while.
Because I don't want to say
you have to consider the correspondence for later that got to the king. So I'm thinking it was between.
Okay.
So I did not watch the post episode sneak preview of next week, and also hey, here's kind of what went on today. But yeah, that makes sense of this is the initial battle where Daemon makes his play, and then when we cut back to them again later in the episode and they're kind of at like a stalemate, that totally makes sense. But yeah, when we go on further, we'll talk about that. Like that birthday feast is obviously 3 years removed.
Yeah.
Assuming 3 years, 9 months, and then 2 years. So
Mm-hmm.
And then
roughly
there was
that
like a
amount of time.
month before they got married. I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel like it's easy to round to 3 years.
Yeah, but yeah, like the Craxy's crushing the Valerian soldier was hilarious because
He's like, yes, and then immediately dies by
Which-
a dragon.
if I was that guy, I'm like, I'm kind of dead anyways. Like,
Yeah. He was
I've gotten
obviously like,
impaled in
kill
different
him.
parts of
I'm
my
not
body, and
I'm a
maybe
bystander.
Yeah.
I'm jumping ahead. I'm glad they got rid of the Crab Feeder King because, like, obviously we know just by the synopsis that it's a battle between the House Targaryen like within. So that obviously that guy's not gonna. But like they didn't talk about him having grayscale enough.
Yeah,
Like,
they didn't talk about him enough, period. I'm actually kind of upset. Like
I
I
talked
Yeah.
about that with my friend this time. It didn't, to me, look that much like grayscale. Like grayscale almost, to me, if I remember it, was a little thicker. It was almost like stone-like.
yeah, it was
And
like
this
Uh-huh.
just looked like silvery skin. Like almost like fish scalies. I don't know.
okay.
It looked different to me. I know we're all clinging on to this hope of grayscale being part of it, but I could be wrong.
No, I agree that it doesn't look like grayscale. It just like we don't know what that disease is. And I don't know. I wish they would have like actually dove into him just for like 2 minutes.
It's a history lesson. Don't have sex with crabs.
Yeah, that's why.
And you won't spread a nasty disease.
I did like
Grayscale's
his
actually
mask. The mask was pretty cool.
It was like a Sons of the Harpy
Mhm.
kind of mask, something like that. That makes sense that it's not grayscale because one, Daemon, I'm assuming, tussled with him in the cave when they fought, and he can't get grayscale because he's going to play a role in the story, many more years in advance. Wow. A red woman, Melisandre herself, conjured up Nick Evans to join us on this episode. Dude, we are so glad you're here. So, Nick, we are obviously talking about episode 3, Second of His Name. Give us your initial thoughts on the episode, man.
This is about to sound a little off, but yes, I am. Whatever you thought I was in for, I'm half a step down. Half a step. And that doesn't mean I'm not bringing it still. It doesn't mean that this is not my favorite episode yet. It just means that from a full production of what this show has been for us thus far, I'm a half a step down. And the reasoning is just the time jump that we had, although I appreciated a whole bunch, I enjoyed it a whole bunch, I just cannot fully grasp at this point the 2.5 years that we've had in 3 episodes. And I kind of wish that we weren't as far along as we were. I wish that the battle was a year, maybe, or a year, a perfect year where the son was born, the son was made and born, and he's like a half month or a month year old at this point. Him being 2 years, there's so much nuance that goes along with him being 2 years old, where I'm like, okay, we have to check in with so many characters, and we haven't had that opportunity yet, and that detracts a little bit for me. And so, as much as I am a fan of what is happening, 2 years is a big jump, and I thought I would be okay with the big jumps, but there was so much that I wanted, especially from Alicent and Rhaenyra. We did not get enough of the two of them talking, and we got a little bit. We got about probably 7 or 8 minutes. I could have had a full episode with that 2-year time jump that happened, with those two sitting down and talking about the nuances of their relationship. And I also could have done a full episode of that final battle that we got, because goddamn. Well, oh my gosh. Holy smokes, that was awesome. But with that all being said, I think that there's a lot that goes with this episode, and I am super excited to jump in and talk about it with y'all. But with that all being said, it was a great episode. It just is not my favorite, and there's a lot of different reasons, but the time jump is the biggest reason that it is not my personal favorite. But sorry to jump in late. I'm super excited to talk about this as always, and I'll make sure to bring the hype as Nevin's Island always does. So, Jim, I'll send it back.
Yeah, that's interesting that you weren't as jazzed about it as us, because all three of us said it was our favorite episode. We were really taken aback by like the battle, all the politicking, the intrigue, all the character development. I do see what you're saying though about like but I think that's just the nature of the show, because there's just going to be a lot of time jumps, and so we're going to lose some of that nuance within each span of time. But that doesn't lessen the loss of that nuance between a lot of the characters and the relationships. But yeah, going back into our first little point set piece here. So yeah, the episode starts off with Daemon and Craxy's riding to battle, and then what was his name again? The crab feeder Drahar kind of outsmarts Daemon and the Valerians a little bit by sneaking into the caves, guerrilla warfare style. So you have any thoughts or comments on that this initial setup of the episode?
I'm super in. Once again, I want to make this very clear. I did not dislike this episode. This episode, chance or we're past the 2 minutes, but I know the YouTube's cracking down a little bit. I'm just gonna say it's freaking awesome. It is the cat's pajamas. Am I good? Good swear? Okay. This episode's fucking awesome, guys. This episode's fucking unbelievable. Are you kidding me? With that last 20 minutes, I was literally holding on to my friend's arm, just going for the last 20 minutes of this episode, because it's that fucking good. With that being said, this opening scene is a little bit slower. We have to catch up so much, and it's been 2 years. It's been 2 freaking years. We have so much to learn. We have and obviously, Corliss's hair later in the episode I find very funny, because is that 2 years of hair growth? You definitely got a couple cuts in between, but it's longer just to show time. Thought that was very funny. Anyway, so this opening is delightful. It's what we want. It's what we expect, but it is not what we, as the fans, as I was saying with this time jump, fully deserved. Where we should have gotten the first scene, I think, should have been something along the lines of conversation compared to action. And yes, they wanted to bring us into this world once again for the third time, where we were setting up this entire episode to see this big action set piece that we all knew about. And as much as that delivered, this opening, I think, should have been a little bit more, okay, we are here 2 years later. And yeah, Game of Thrones is amazing enough to thrust us in 2 years later, but it's also, we're here 2 years later. Been a minute. Please just let us catch a little bit of air. Let us catch a little bit of understanding. Yes, they made it very clear this war's been going on for 2 years without the king and so on and so forth, and they're not winning per se. But man, it just was a lot, really fast, and I think it could have been done better. That's actually, that pretty much sums up my entire front point of me coming into this podcast episode. Of the 2 years was a lot for the first 20 minutes. After that, once we really sunk back into the world, I was like, fuck that. This is awesome. Let's rock and roll. I was fully in after that. But the first 20 minutes didn't let me catch my breath enough to fully be like, all right, this is the world that we have, as much as the first 2 episodes did. And that's why it is not my favorite, even though the last 40 minutes was the best 40 minutes we've gotten of this show thus far. And so that is sort of my progression of my thoughts of definitely the first 10 minutes, the first 20 minutes, and then obviously later, if you need someone to hype up this episode, your boy's going to come in hot and say that this is the cat's pajamas. This thing is freaking awesome, and I'm super, super excited to discuss it with all of you guys.
Yeah, I got to say, once I think we make that big time jump, whenever it's coming, I think probably in the halfway mark, maybe we will get more of a condensed story with less massive time jumps. But yeah, going back to our point before Nick joined us with the dragon stomping on the soldier, it just made me think of the parallel with Daenerys and kind of just torching King's Landing, and then obviously Viserys in episode 1 saying these dragons are a power beyond our control. People think we control them, but we really don't. So I just thought it was a nice little touch on that element of it. But yeah, then we go to the birthday feast for Aegon II. And then a little note here I had was with some of the conversations in this part of the episode, a lot of the nobility expects Aegon to be named as heir, specifically with Otto and Lord Beesbury, I believe that was. And then I made another note here. We got our first official, like, meaty, content of a house we're very familiar with. We finally got to see House Lannister. This time they're not, conniving and having sex with each other. They're just trying to curry favor with the king.
I mean, they're still being sleazeballs, like, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh God, that back look!
Yeah.
Like, turn around, look over here, and let me check on your ass real quick. Gross.
Continue.
But Chance,
Okay,
yeah,
sorry.
how did it feel to see House Lannister again? I know we talked about it a little bit on episode 1, especially, but this is a different episode, but there's still going to be some familiar elements. But it does have to feel a little nice to see this house again, even though they suck in Game of Thrones.
It is really good to see him. It is really good to see him, and it's kind of interesting to see like them playing like the game, trying to like curry favor and not like necessarily having eyes on the throne yet, because they don't know if that's possible. I do think it's interesting like how, because we know that they're like powerful because they rule King's Landing in the majority of Game of Thrones, but like I think it's interesting to like have somebody just kind of break down like their entire sum of like why they're important. And then I don't know, like he was super slimy, but it just kind of helped build out Lannister. I've really enjoyed seeing the houses that we know in the show, but I don't know.
Yeah, you can speak for us all when you say that. Like, you hear the name Lannister, and you're like, here they are. Let's go. Their history.
Like take a shower a little bit. Like
he's playing the game too. He's like, girl, I got you a dragon cave already. Let's go. Right back at Castle Rock.
Yeah.
I'm asking real quick, Vegas. You cannot speak for me. I'm not.
You don't like the Lannister?
I love the Lannisters. Tyrion Lannister is my favorite character in fiction. But with that being said, I was not ready for that. Once again, this 2-year time jump, it took me back far enough where I said, I just want the characters that we have in this game thus far to set the stage for the first 15, 20 minutes of this episode. And getting that introduction where it's clearly, and it did a good job, obviously, my fellow castmates on this podcast are very excited, as they should be. I don't disagree with this, that hearing Lannister is a cool moment. With that being said, the first 20 minutes of this episode, the first 10 minutes of this episode, I just wanted a moment to breathe. I wanted a moment where it wasn't trying to build hype. It wasn't trying to build motivation. And yes, I like legitimately that in the second half of the episode, and obviously the second half of the episode, they went a different way and we got something else awesome. But I was not ready to have that hell yeah moment at that moment. I wanted a moment of give us the characters we know, give us the motivations that we already have in play, because we just jumped 2 freaking years. That is not short. That is not a small moment. And yes, we were having this
but I would argue that they are showing where these characters are at, because now we're seeing that she is like of age, like it is like catching us up to a certain point. So like I don't necessarily like, I get where you're coming from, like kind of being like not knowing where the feet are landing, but I took it like that whole section with her and the king was like kind of like bringing us up to speed on like what she's kind of been doing and like the ways that he's been looking out for her. Like I get where you're coming from, that it was like quite a time jump, but I don't know. That's just my
I agree. It doesn't feel that rushed to me either, because the way that they were explaining the things that were going on were still things that were already going on. We had the beginning with the war. We knew that was going to happen. Yeah. And then we had like a new baby that was there, but we had, the 2 friends who were now drifting apart, and we knew that was going to happen. And, the Lannister thing, very brief. Very brief. It didn't feel too rushed to me, because everything was just kind of like, here's a little extra sprinkle of
Like,
things that are happening
to
as
double
well as the things that were happening.
Yeah, not to jump too far in the episode, but like you kind of see that with her and Sir Clarkston. What's her homeboy's name?
Sir
Kristen?
Kristen,
Oh,
and
yeah,
Kristen
yeah,
Cole.
Yeah,
Kristen
he
Cole, yes.
like their relationship and how like he's been guarding her for 2 years, and you kind of see that friendship starting to form, and like he's looking out for her, and like always watching, like just like those subtle things. And I don't know, I personally like I really liked seeing like that we didn't have to go through like kind of the normal beats of seeing the princess and the new queen like kind of falling out as friends. I'm glad it was kind of interesting for me to see like how far it had already gotten and like how rude she was being to her former best friend. Anyway, that's just me.
Once again, I am actually, I can't agree with you guys more on 95% of what you just said. My only issue with this 2-year time jump and then the Lannister coming in right now is there is no way in hell that this is the first time a real player has tried to wed Rhaenyra. Like, that's my biggest issue.
Yeah.
Like, this
And he
was
said the king
boiling
said that.
point.
He said I've been getting mail for years.
I think he
Well,
was
he's getting
shielding
mail,
her
but-
from that happening. I think that's the first
that,
time that
but-
somebody had the balls to like go into it, which is a very Lannister thing to do, if I like am being honest.
Once again, I'm not even upset that it's the Lannister. I'm just saying there's got to be some houses of power that understood even before the son was born, even before Aegon was born, of okay, she's the queen, she is the heir to the throne as of right now. Someone's going to be trying to get with her in some way. And yes, it is my only issue with this episode when it comes to the 2-year time jump of, once again, Lannister. It's hype. It gives you the chills. It gives you the feels that we all want to feel when we watch this show. With that being said, didn't matter who at that point as much as what it was. And what it was they make it very clear. They do it very well where he was like, I was 17. You're 17. You need to take an heir. I'm like, the game is always afoot. The game is always happening for 2 years, and this is my only issue. And once again, I loved this fucking episode. I loved everything that happened. So this isn't just me dunking on the episode as a whole. This is with the 2-year time jump that we got. This for me just was not my perfect flavor of. I just kind of wish that it wasn't just letters. I wish that she was like, Dad, this is the 15th guy, and I understand that he's probably the best candidate thus far, but I'm not doing this. And then obviously the king, whoever the king's actor is, whoever Viserys' actor is, I don't have it up for the first time. I normally have it up once again. I'm in a different location and everything. Is fucking awesome because he nails that scene with Rhaenyra later in this episode. But I kind of wish that with what we got of Lannister, it was a little bit tighter. It was a little bit more affectionate with the 2-year jump that we got compared to. I felt like this was a moment that could have happened 2 months, 3 months after the king wedded. But now here we are 2 years later. It's like, yeah, it might have taken a couple years to build out the dragon pit, as Vegas mentioned, that he was like, yeah, I already got that ready for you, babe. Let's rock and roll. We got dragons, we got Lannisters, we got the money. Let's rock. Castle we rock, baby. But it wasn't that. It was just a little bit long for me. Other than that, let's talk about how amazing this fucking episode was, because this is Game of Thrones at its finest.
We got Tyland Lannister, who is he's got like the shorter haircut, and he is on the King's Small Council. I don't remember what position he has on there. He could be filling maybe Corlys's position since he's at war, or maybe Daemon's. Those are probably my two guesses. And then Jason Lannister, the party boy Lannister, who I am assuming is Lord of Casterly Rock if Tyland is at the small council. I mean, couldn't be the case. Jason does give younger brother energy, so he could be like but he did assume like with the marriage that he would have, stewardship of Casterly Rock. And again, another small point, like they're twins. So again, that just must be the genetics in the Lannister family of just, obviously Cersei and Jaime are twins as well. So just must run the family. Next point up I wrote was that Rhaenyra just feels very frustrated being stuck in no man's land because, like what I said earlier, a lot of people expect Aegon II to be named heir, but Rhaenyra is still the official heir, but she's not getting any of the respect. She's not getting any responsibility. She's just literally chilling under the godswood, making that dude play that song
On
a billion
repeat.
times on repeat.
I listen to songs on repeat all the time.
Me too. Yeah, me too. And then Alicent and Rhaenyra, the relationship's really awkward at this point, where they're both trying to flex their political muscle. Obviously, Alicent kind of has the upper hand here at the moment, being queen. Orders the minstrel dude to get out of there. We got the Targaryen host going on a great hunt in honor of Aegon II's name day. And then let's definitely discuss this. When they arrive at the Kingswood, there's like a lot of cheering. Like all the noble houses that are already there, ready to go, are just like erupting in applause. Hoots and hollers, all that good stuff. So Vegas, how did the reaction of the higher nobility to Aegon II reflect on this reality almost that the realm would respect a male heir more
They
than
were pretty confident that he was going to be the next heir, and they're just waiting for that to be announced. It's just one of those episodes where everybody's got one thing on their mind. I mean, you saw it with the Targaryen guy, Jason Targaryen. He literally was like, "Yeah, well, if he's going to be the heir, I'll take the princess or whatever." And the king was like, "Excuse you? I didn't say that. Who said that? You tell me who said that."
Rebellion.
Yeah, rebellion. You tell me. You're supposed to be on my team. It's pretty much everybody against the king at this point. Rhaenyra is just kind of like giving up, and she's like I'm still gonna be strong me, but like I'm hopeless. Like everything going on around me says otherwise. Everybody believes that Aegon's gonna be the heir, and the king's like, "I didn't say that. I'm not gonna say that." I don't think he's gonna falter either. It sounds like he's pretty strict on that.
Yeah. Nick, what do you think about Viserys's like kind of, I can't think of the term here, but like kind of like he's taking the middle of the road approach. Like he's not like fully he declared Rhaenyra as his heir, but he's not like constantly like beating that drum and allowing obviously you can't control the whole narrative, but there's this message, the sentiment of Aegon being the next in line to fester. Like, how did you feel about that from the Viserys character perspective?
I think I think the entire kingdom and then half of Viserys knows that Aegon's going to be king. I think Rhaenyra knows it. I think that legitimately everybody knows, except for half of Aegon, just dead centered, knows that this kid's going to be the king because he has to be. With that being said, the dude multiple times, including later in the episode, says he's playing with his heart a little bit. Normally, when you play with your heart in the Game of Thrones, it doesn't end too well for you. And so here he is, multiple conversations deep, but especially at the start of this episode, he's like shrugging his shoulders, like, I already made my decision and I care about my daughter. And so I kind of got to roll with it, even though I know it's the wrong decision. Rhaenyra even knows that the kid is going to be king. Like it's the writing is on the wall, and I kind of feel bad for him. And I think that he's one of the most, if not the most, other than Rhaenyra, sympathetic characters in this entire show. Where we, as a fan of just like these characters, you root for the ones that are playing with their heart and aren't playing the game as much. Because when you're playing the game, you're a skeevy little person like Hightower. Like you're doing the like deals in the back door where Viserys has been very clear of, I'm playing with my heart. There's a reason, and Rhaenyra even calls it out. There's a reason he didn't marry Corlys's daughter, but he went and married the one that he wanted to marry. And so, gosh, I kind of feel bad for the guy. Where I'm just like,
Yeah.
I want you to make the right choice. Like for us in the year 2022 is to stick with your word and to let this girl be queen because that's what you said you were going to do, and she deserves it. And she's made the correct moves to remain queen. With that being said, he's in a shit scenario. And like the reason he sucks as a king is he keeps on putting himself in shit scenarios time and time again. And here he is once again in a shit scenario. And I feel bad for him, but maybe he should have just married the 12-year-old in the last episode and his life would have been a little bit easier. Maybe he should have just announced Daemon as the king or as the heir, and it would have been easier for him. He's not making the right political moves, but he's making the right moves for his heart, and I'm kind of rooting for him at this point to continue doing that because at the end of the day, I want Rhaenyra on the Iron Throne. She deserves it. She's done nothing to prove otherwise. She's a good, somewhat like in this world of disgustingness, somewhat innocent character where you want to root for her, and it's tough. Chance, what do you think about all this with Viserys?
I think he's kind of reaping what he sowed. Like, I do feel bad for him in a way, but I also feel like this is the hole you dug yourself. Like, he is kind of responsible for his wife's death, and he did like estrange his daughter her whole entire life, and now he went and got married and decided to have like, he just at every point he could have said enough, and he's the king. He could have, and he, like, I know this is 2022, so we have like a different lens on it, but also like I do feel bad for him. Like, I have empathy for him, but also like it's hard because it's like you've seen how he got to this point where like I feel a little bit more remorse for the queen in this situation because like she really didn't have a choice. It was her dad that like kind of made that decision for her, and now she is queen, but she lost her best friend and doesn't really get a say in shit. And so like I don't know. That's kind of my take on it personally.
Yeah, it reminds me of the conversation with Allison and Viserys towards the end of the episode, where Viserys says the line of like, you know, no matter what choice I make, I please one person and then I piss off another. And so being in that position of king or just leadership in general, like it's almost a lose-lose situation no matter what choice you make at any given time. I do want to bring up the point of they're at the party. They're kind of just having a good time. Rhaenyra kind of like settles a little bit and sees all the women just hanging out and talking and chit-chatting about just about like trivial stuff that doesn't really matter. We see Allison in her game there. Like she's just like flowing with the conversation, picking and popping and just like redirecting it all very
She's
eloquently.
Bitches down, dude. Like she is batting shit down left and right. Like she will not have none of this in her fucking tent. She is keeping it to a minimum. I don't know. I really appreciated seeing her in her element like that.
Yeah, but then Rhaenyra's like, oh, go ahead.
There was a moment where I legitimately leaned to my buddy and I go, and we're big basketball fans in my apartment, and I was just like, dude, that lady right there was fucking Golden State going up for the layup, and then LeBron James just smacking it down. Allison having none of it, and we were just laughing our asses off because, like, once again, Rhaenyra and I think Allison are the two people you just root for in this show when it comes to their political games because they're playing the game as they should, but they're also dealt a shit hand because they're just women in this world, and that's so difficult. But Allison is still holding her own in this moment. It's such a powerful, awesome way. As Chance said, she's just smacking shit down. She's having none of it, and it's awesome as these older women are trying to remain in the status quo when these two girls are having none of it, and then Allison having such power as the queen having none of it. It's so awesome. And like I said, this is around like the 15-20 minute mark where I just am locked in this episode. They just had me gripped for the rest of this episode. It's some of the best Game of Thrones we've had in the past 7 years. Like, it is unbelievable. I'm super in, and yeah, sorry to cut you off, Brett, but
Oh, you're good.
I just want to throw that out there.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
That dude with the limp, like he's onto some shit, right? Like they didn't spend so much time.
Everybody was rolling their eyes at him, like, what's going on?
Yeah, but then like he's just sitting there eating a damn cookie
He's like, "Can I
while
sit down,
everybody's
ladies?"
like talking their mad shit, like just gathering all this. I don't know. Something was up about that fella.
He got looked up and down, dude.
Yeah.
I just saw it as so he's a member of House Strong, so he's of a noble house. You know, his dad's on the high or the small council. I just looked at it as like he can't fight, and so he's not worthy or comfortable of hanging out with.
Basically
the
sitting
men.
at the women's table.
So he has to hang out with the women.
He's a useless man, and the old lady was just like, "Yeah, you can sit."
Get that leg of wood on me.
Yeah. Rhaenyra was not. She. That's just not her vibe. Sitting with a bunch of women and just chit chatting about nothing. And then she had that awesome burn on Lady Redwind about how she's serving the realm by eating cake, and then like her little pug is like just munching on that cake.
Eating
That cake
cake.
looked really good. I do got to say that cake did look really good. Next point, Jason Lannister fumbles the bag. This is where we get his schmoozy, slimy like attempt at trying to court Rhaenyra. Does not work. She compliments the wine, but clearly it was not great wine because Jason just dumps it like as soon as she walks away. I thought that was hilarious.
It's like-
Rhaenyra must marry, I wrote. So I think this is again when Rhaenyra confronts her dad, and she's just like pissed that like he's
It's
trying to
like, we
play
all got
matchmaker with her.
responsibilities.
Yeah.
Gotta get married, bro.
Next point, the King of the Kingswood.
I touched on it earlier, but I just want to say what a scene by the king. Like this is acting at its finest, where the dude, as we said, damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. He finally has that conversation with her where he lays it on the line, and he's done it multiple times with multiple different people. Where when he announces Allison as his queen, that is a moment where he just has to send it and say what needs to be said. And the reason I do enjoy the time jump, I've only talked about the negative. He is the type of king where it would take him 2 years to grow the gumption to go and be like, you need to marry. I just brought you a decent candidate. But even now, I can't coach you to not play with your heart because I've played this game with my heart thus far. And she calls him out for it, where he says, if you were playing the game, you would have married Corliss's daughter. End of story. And he's like, yeah, I should have done that, but I'm playing with my heart. And so here, I'm sorry, I'm playing with my heart. And she obviously is just like, and then he gives her permission. He's like, marry someone you love. And I think that is a very powerful, impactful scene. I'm making sure that is the scene we were discussing. By the way, I might have jumped forward to the next.
No, yeah,
time that they
that's
confront.
far into the to more at
I
the
am
end.
very
This
sorry.
is a
Then
different scene.
I totally just had a brain fart. Sorry, y'all. I'm
No,
coming
you're
into
good,
this
you're good.
episode at a very
This
odd
part
time
is
in
when
my
he's
life.
drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, and being a dick. Sorry, guys. I
drunk.
jumped the shark a little bit there. Because I assumed Brett would have asked probably about what we all thought about that moment, but and we'll save that for the future. Brett will be like, "Hey, remember what Nick said?" And then what does everyone else think about that scene? And it'll be a great time. So sorry, Brett. Continue on with the plot.
It's all good. So the trackers find a white heart called the King of the Kingswood, and a big point of a white heart is that it used to be the symbol for royalty in that area before the Targaryens came over. So obviously, Lord of the Seven Kingdoms. So there's 7 different isolated, kingdoms before the Targaryens came and united them all. And so that's a big point that we want to stay on as we continue on. As the festivities are going and they're tracking the White Hart, they go back to the camp, and the king gets lit. He is just
Liddy.
lipping it down. Again, what I kind of jumped earlier too, where he's like, no matter what I do, like I'm gonna piss somebody off, and so he's just clearly frustrated with his like position. They kind of go into it when Rhaenyra runs off with Kristen that like you just have to like people like you're in obviously a very privileged position, But there are some unique downsides to like being wealthy and having influence over the realm. And so it's one of those like catch 22s. Like you're gonna have all this like reap all these rewards, but there's just gonna be stuff that you have to deal with that the common folk, as they say, don't have to deal with. Otto makes some moves. He tries to match Aegon the Second with Rhaenyra, and again, this dude is just like whispering in his ear, man. Like for
Keep
me,
it in the family, including mine.
Yeah.
I think he's trying to do reverse psychology here by suggesting the interfamily marriage, which for those who don't know, like it is common, but obviously throughout like the history of the Targaryen dynasty, like they do make conscious choices either for heart, just for love, or just to diversify the bloodline. Because obviously, like if you just intermarry within the family, you're gonna have some messed up kids down the line, which they do just throughout, anyways. But Otto suggests the interfamily marriage, and yeah, I think it's reverse psychology. Chance, what do you think? What do you think Otto's game is here, man?
Man, so I have thoughts about
Okay.
this, but
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I'm not sure if what I say is right or not.
No, dude.
I
And
feel
Angry
like they,
commenters, you sit down.
I feel
Hold your
like
tongues.
they threw the brother card out there early, right?
Okay.
Because there's going to be a different family marriage thing that's going to go down, and the brother's going to be less weird.
That's what I thought.
Dude,
no,
like-
I thought the same thing.
Okay, like I think that personally, I don't know. I think that she's gonna marry the homie on the dragon in the last battle that was helping out Daemon. I forget his name. It was the brother of the
Laenor, Laena and Laenor.
I think she's gonna marry Laenor, but I don't know. Like I just with the way that this show and the history of the previous show handle interfamily relationships, I just feel like that was like a softball pitch of like that just gets swatted down and there's going to be another one coming. That's my personal take.
Yeah, I think that it got swatted down fast enough, and I also think that they've set up Rhaenyra to not just do what is the best political move. Like she will not just outright make the best political move. And also, she got permission from her dad to not make the best political move later down in this episode. And so I totally agree. It got thrown out there, and once again, LeBron James, bang, just swat that away.
I mean, there's
happening.
There's a time jump in this season, so maybe like later on when the time jump has happened, she has a kid, and that's how they get around it. Is that like, dang it, I spilled my beer. She has a daughter, and then her dad has a son, and so like that's how they mend the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's
I had
kinda
the
like where
same
my
thought
mind was going.
process too. With the okay, they're bringing it up, but I think it's because they're going to bring it up again in a different way. But I also don't think that she's going to go that route.
Okay.
It seems like with the way that it's going, she's going to marry for love. But that incestual, I feel like that whole incestual topic is going to circle back.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Game of Thrones. We all know that if there's not incest, like it's the bread and butter of Game of Thrones. It's jacked up, obviously, but like
Exactly.
this is what we've almost come to expect from this show. And the fact that we're 3 episodes deep and they finally mentioned it's like, oh well, it's about time that this topic's showed up.
Yeah.
It's what they do. Like someone had to watch out and they're just like, all right, 40 minutes into the 3rd episode, who had that one? Or is that under what we had before? Like, it's that level of topic.
This is when we hit them with the Lannister twins. We got to do something similar at the same minute mark. Like,
We still have the relationship between her and Kristen, though, too.
Yeah. Well, to go back to the incest thing, I mean, Viserys and Emma were cousins, right? So that was already kind of there subtly. They're not like, and my cousin wife, but
Yeah.
they're like my wife. But like, yeah, again with Otto making moves with Rhaenyra again, it's that would be, like you said, Nick, that is the politically savvy move. But of course, that's not how it's
Whispers.
that's not how it's gonna go. Again,
Otto's smart.
I do gotta say, Otto rocking the beard game. He's got the little more scraggly beard. I love it. Love the drip. Here's where I wrote down like the first like music cue that like really stood out to me. This is like, again, the festival, the partying is continuing, and it's starting to get a little later in the day. Viserys is just gone right now. He's faded. And it was like, I don't know, it was like very eerie, very like stringy music almost. And I thought it was a brilliant way to set this like foreboding atmosphere within this episode, but also what is to come over the next couple episodes, seasons, and years in the story. House Strong suggests a match with House Targaryen and House Valyrian again, like we already said with Laenor and Rhaenyra. But Viserys is just like, he's so faded and he's so done with the politicking that he just doesn't even consider it, even though, again, would be a nice political savvy move to repair that relationship with the two houses that historically have close ties. Here's another point I want to bring up that I thought was pretty cool. So Rhaenyra and Sir Criston Cole are out in the Kingswood, just making some s'mores, having some good conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what was about to happen when the music got suddenly quiet and there was rustling in the woods. Go ahead.
All my predictions were wrong in that moment. He stood up. I'm like, he's gonna die. And then it was like creepy towards one. I'm like, he's gonna die. He said he's gonna die like 30 times. He did not.
But I thought like for some reason I thought it was gonna be like a dragon or some like massive beast or I don't know what, but I thought it was a boar.
I thought it was gonna be the white stag. I thought that moment.
That would have been a lot more.
Yeah.
Logical.
But I do appreciate how like they talk about it in the post episode thing, but like that being her kind of like taking out all of her frustrations, killing this boar, and then like she comes back.
You needed that outlet.
Yeah, for sure. But she's also been like born anew, baptized, and is like she's a different person from here on out through the rest. They said that her, Daemon, and there was one other person. They said like from this episode on, like that sets their trajectory of who they're going to be for like the rest of the series, which is I found very interesting.
Also, for me, it legitimately this is one of those rare occasions where, not through Game of Thrones, but in television in general, where every single stab almost held weight. Where you're like, she's going for the kill. She's making sure it's dead. She's making sure it's dead. Oh shit, it's dead. And then 5 more of just pure frustration of this world and this shit hand that she's been dealt was just terrific acting. And it's also the moment of, I felt like stab 1 through 4, basically, there was just like killing the boar. But then when the blood starts going on her face and where basically she's like, the less F's are given, basically, was the next 5. And that's when the basically carnage started to appear on her face, started to be put on her as a character. Yeah, it was. God damn, I fucking, like I said, the first 20 minutes I was like, okay, I'm in, this is a lot right now. But when we're in a moment like this show is just so unbelievable. And I was just so impressed with the symbolism that was this unreal moment of, sure, Criston Cole got the first stab through the face that almost cut her. And then she obviously just starts making her mark on this beast. And I could not believe how like obviously the writing's there, and obviously this is Game of Thrones and they know what they're doing, but man, this was a moment of where I was sitting back fully immersed and fully impressed. And it's Game of Thrones, baby, we're back.
Hell yeah. I really appreciated how Sir Criston, like, he did get that blow to like save her for a minute, because like he is her sworn protector. Like that shows that like he was doing his job, because like I do feel like I would have a little less confidence in him if she had to like do the whole damn thing by herself. Like him having the wherewithal to like jump back up and make sure she's good and she doesn't get chomped by this boar. I don't know. I like that is where the relationship, like I started to notice it like a lot, like
Yeah.
after they had been joking and stuff. But
Yeah, it's another level up, and they say, I think after, when they're just walking, and he's like, hey, like, you do have, I mean, it might be before, but like, you do have an
Before.
influence. Yeah, you do have an influence. Like, you've forever changed my life and like all my descendants' lives.
It was
by
like a
naming-
parallel to the king's conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
Like your
So
influence over the realm has consequences, but also like, look, you affected my life. So
yeah, the macro and the micro just perfectly symbolized there. But yeah, with the boar, I just immediately thought of Robert Baratheon
Right?
just getting punked
Bobby
by the
B,
boar.
baby.
yeah,
we're
By
all
the boar
freaking
in
out.
season
We all
one.
freaked out.
Also in the Kingswood, which in season 1 of Game of Thrones, we don't really get to see a lot of the Kingswood. So just seeing the Kingswood, I just gotta say, yeah, the cinematography in this episode was phenomenal. Seeing the Kingswood, all the different shots, like, really just showed how vast and beautiful this world is. But yeah, I wanted to bring up the Robert Baratheon parallel, because I was like, oh yeah, he got liquored up and punked by a boar. Like, dang, dude.
And her dad was also liquored up at the time.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Dude kills Rhaegar Targaryen and then gets punked by a boar, man. Just tough scene. Next we get Viserys at the bonfire. I don't know what the bonfire was for, if they were like burning anything or what have you, but great cinematography, great shot there with him and Alicent. But we see Viserys fixated on that prophecy of seeing a son with a golden crown, the Conqueror's crown, on his head. And we talked a little bit about prophecy before, but it's just a classic like storytelling device or what have you, of like somebody getting too fixated on a prophecy and then either causing it indirectly or avoiding it because of their actions of trying to manifest this prophecy. Nick, with Viserys and this prophecy, like how do you think this dictates its actions? Because like I said earlier, he's kind of like, he's kind of like milquetoast. Like, he's not committing too hard to like different sides or different courses of action. So how do you correlate that with his fixation on this prophecy?
I think that the fire was a perfect symbol for what was happening, where he realized that thing was kind of going up in flames, where he had this idea for years that this would be the case, that he would have his son and it would just be simple. Like he expected life to be simple, where he would have a boy and then the boy would become king and then it would just be all chill. But sure as shit, Game of Thrones, things are going to go and burn down. Things are not going to be the case. And once again, if someone has a different read on this, please hop in after the fact. But he goes and has this idea of, this is what I thought was going to happen. And now here I am down the line, about 3 years since shit really hit the fan, and he's screwed. He is screwed. And he's like, I'm not married to who I thought I was going to be married. My wife is dead. I have my daughter, who I love more than anything, as my heir right now, and I want to remain true to that. But now I have a son that would fulfill my deepest fantasy that I dreamt of for years, and I can't bring myself to go and put him on the throne because it's not who I am, because I'm playing with my heart. And that it's one of those scenes that I need to definitely watch back to get all the nuances of the dialogue and what was really said. And really, you brought up the cinematography. Holy smokes, just seeing the crackling of the fire in the background, I almost want to hear the syllables of his voice and what was crackling when it was, because there were certain moments where I was like, oh, it popped and then he just popped off, sort of deal. And it was brilliant. I once again, Viserys is kind of just screwed through this entire thing. He got dealt a shit hand. I feel like everyone that had blonde hair as of right now is dealt a shit hand. Even Corlys's family, like they're all just dealing with this insanely bad deal. And this scene just highlights him coming to all of his frustrations with his easily his deepest companion at this point, his most trusted companion. It's either Hightower, you could argue, is his most trusted companion, but he's coming to his wife and he's saying, "This sucks," and it does suck, and it's a very intense scene that I enjoyed immensely, and I will definitely be rewatching tomorrow.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like Viserys is kind of like losing his mind a little bit and just like frustrated at this like reality that he can't force it to come true. And I thought, what's her name, Olivia Carey, who's playing Alicent, played it perfectly because like she knows he's like off his rocker, but she can't like call that out, so she has to like assuage him, but not like be too comforting to make him realize that he's like just so many dynamics with that relationship, and the acting right there was just incredible. But Chance,
you never call the drunk person drunk. You just let them ride out what they're feeling, and that's exactly like I'm a college student. I see it every weekend where it's like someone's being stupid and shooting off at the mouth, and instead of trying to calm them down, it's just best for them to ride it out. But with him riding it out, we do get to see so much characterization, so much reality that is on his shoulders, and I think it's brilliant. Sorry, Chance, what is your opinion on this entire scene?
What were you going to ask, Brett?
I was going to say, Chance, is this prophecy true or false?
I don't
Because
think
there are prophecies. There are prophecies in this world that are true, and then some that are false. So, what do you think?
I personally don't think it's true. Just
Okay.
I gotta like there's something about like the way he's doubting his conviction and then the road it took to get there. Now now I'm like saying this, I'm like doubling back on it of like it matches a prophecy so well of like the hardship that it took to get to fulfill this prophecy, but I'm still undecided. I'll put it that way, because the second I start talking one way, my mind immediately starts making arguments for the other way. Like, it's really good writing and they've like put it in a really interesting place. But like, for me personally, I'm not too much looking that far ahead. Like, I really am interested in watching how these characters grow, because I do feel like that is still a ways away of like when that shoe is going to drop. I feel like that's later in the season. There's so much development that's happening with like Daemon and just a bunch of personally, that's like who I'm keeping my eye on the most. But I don't know. There's a lot to look at and like look forward to, and I just haven't put my mind there yet.
Yeah. So next up, the king and the hunting party finds a heart, but it is not a white heart. It is a brown heart. And oh my gosh, my symbolism receptors were just like going crazy, because like they hammered it so hard that the white heart was representative of the like the kingdom, royalty before the Targaryens,
like divine intervention or some shit, right?
Yeah, they kept like the gods have decreed this for Aegon, and then they find a brown, because they did track a white heart, but they can't find it. They find a brown heart. And oh my gosh, like, and we'll get into it here. Like, Viserys goes to kill it, and he just botches the first shot. It takes him. So yeah, there's that. There's that layer, and then the second layer is he can't even kill it in one stroke.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this. What do we think about? Or let me go a little bit further. And then Rhaenyra finds the white heart up on like the little hill.
The white heart finds her.
Yeah, exactly.
Like true representation of like the manifestation or whatever.
Yeah,
really
yeah. So what do we think about this, man? I feel like this might be the most consequential part of the episode, honestly, going forward.
What
do we think?
Most self-explanatory part of the episode.
Yeah.
Look what just happened.
Yeah.
To piggyback off of that, him not wanting the prophecy to be true, that it's his daughter that is the one that the prophecy is about, like, it takes him 2 stabs. Like, it is a really hard pill for him to swallow, a really hard thing for him to put away, but on the princess's end, it is seamless, it is effortless. Like, he is there and they have the opportunity and she says no and let him go, which I think to me more speaks to like the true ascension into who should be like hold the Iron Throne. Like that, like this,
Absolutely.
as
Let-
Vega
let-
said, like the entire thing is just like so self-explanatory.
It shows the power
Yeah.
that she held in that moment.
You just brought up a brilliant point that I didn't even think about in that aspect of it with Rhaenyra. But literally, George R.R. Martin in this world has told time and time again that the good rulers are the ones that don't seek it.
Yeah.
And even though she is the heir and she is kind of seeking it, that relinquence of letting the white stag go is just perfect symbolism of her not seeking that divine intervention, that prophecy for power for the throne.
So
Yeah,
I have an
really.
interesting question. I don't think that she wants the throne so much as that she wants her father to value her for who
I
she
agree.
is. That's the thing, is I don't think she gives a fuck about ruling anybody. I think she wants her dad to go all in on her, and that's what really matters to her. Because her whole life he never would, or her whole life he never would.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the way I've been reading her through the season of like, and it's kind of like really developed in this scene. Anyway,
No,
And that's why that's why I think her and Allison are the two most interesting characters that we have on the table right now, because neither of them seem to be power hungry. Allison is a pawn in her father's game, and she's just going along with it because that's what she feels like she must do. And Rhaenyra is out here just like, cool, I probably should be the heir. Like, Daemon kind of sucks and is the worst, and I'm the best option as of right now. But even she understands, and she makes it very clear. Aegon's are like what the king like the world wants, basically. She understands the situation, and with that, she just wants her dad to go and be like, it's not even a you deserve the throne, because I think she understands she doesn't, like, in this world that is created, it should go to Aegon in the end. She understands that probably will be the end result, but she just wants the respect of her father. And I think that in some morsel she does get that in their conversation later down the line when he says play with your heart. And that's why it's so interesting. And Chance, you freaking nailed the symbolism. And Vegas, you were tagging along, and Bret, you were tagging along. Like, no joke. I hope everybody was locked in looking at Chance. I was clapping. I was no joke clapping to every word you were saying, because it was so well deserved. Like, your radar on the situation, you put to words what I cannot. And like, that is unbelievable, man. You nailed it. And yeah, I because here's the thing, she doesn't kill the freaking thing. She doesn't best this the Iron Throne. Basically, this entire thing is a symbol for the Iron Throne. He is fucking up, stabbing the Iron Throne. He's fucking up his kingship, and she's just like, yeah, it's right there. It's found me. I don't need to go after it. I can just let it be and let the chips fall where they may, and let the gods decide. And
But she's already
like I
relieved
said,
her stress too after the whole boar thing.
yeah.
And she's standing up on the hill and she's like, I fought my battle. Go away. You're
Mhm.
good.
I shot my
yes,
wad. I'm done.
Vegas, yes.
I've relieved
1,000
my
times yes.
stress.
Yeah.
We're calm now.
She doesn't need it. She doesn't need it. And like in a world where she was so pissed off, maybe she would flip the bird to her dad and say, "No, I want the Iron
Yeah.
Throne." Once again,
If
what I
that
believe
boar
the
didn't
symbol is for.
attack, maybe
Yeah.
she
But
wouldn't have
If
been
the
so
boar doesn't
merciless.
attack and she gets it all out, exactly. Yes. God, I love this show. We have one of the coolest battles we've ever gone in Game of Thrones history. And this episode is already like, yes, 100%, 1,000 times yes. Gosh, you guys got me off the bench finally, and obviously I've talked a lot already, but like, oh my god, right now, Chance just legit, like, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna chill for a moment, and then Chance was just spitting fire for the past. I'm like, there we go, Bret, continue with that recap, baby, come on.
Auto politics with Alicent in the recorders in the Red Keep. They're back at the Red Keep now from the Kingswood. Otto's like, yo, like, you gotta like try to convince Viserys to name Aegon the heir, like, officially, like, let's get it pen to paper. And then we see Alicent in Viserys's quarters, And she does not do that. Instead, she actually is like kind of consoling him about his own issues. Again, this is where I brought up hey, no matter what I choose on any given issue, I'm going to piss somebody off as I please somebody else. And again, like what you said, Nick, like Allison is such an awesome character because they're talking about the crab feeder and the war on the stepstones. And she's like, hey, let's just make it simple. Like, is the realm...
What's better for the realm?
Yeah, is the realm is it better if the crab feeder is allowed to just continue pillaging Valyrian forces and just anybody traveling that area? Or is it going to be better if we take care of this issue like right here and now? And we see that Viserys chooses to intervene officially in this war between the Triarchy and I don't know what you call it, the fact. I technically it's the Targaryens, but this isolated group of the Valerians and Daemon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
So
Valerians and Daemon.
That's the sickest boy band I've ever heard in my entire life. Okay.
I think that this moment basically set the tone for Alicent. She has power now.
Yeah.
She basically talked him off of a bridge.
That's a good
and
point. Yeah.
He was talking in circles. He's like, oh, but my ego, like, I don't want to do that because, like, Daemon. And she's like, okay, but, like, you're people. And he's like, you're right.
She helps him make
Go ahead, Bret.
Oh, she helped him make a decisive decision that, as we've seen through these
in
3
a
episodes,
very smart way.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
I feel like the reason that the 2 characters that get the 2 different actresses is so clear, and I know it sounds like dumb because obviously it's just like aging, and there's a reason that they got to go and allow these characters to be older, but it's also that these 2 are one way or another, as much as they are or aren't playing the game at any given moment, they are the 2 pinholds of this show right now. And man, oh man, what a scene that they get with her. It's I don't even think she's playing the game. I think she's just doing the right thing. Like, I think at the end of the day, she just makes him do what we're all screaming to do, which is put your ego aside, make the right choice, and play, like, for the first time, play with your heart, but in the heart of the kingdom. Not even your personal heart, but what is right. Do the right thing. And once again, Alicent, Rhaenyra, they would be the MVPs of this episode if Daemon Targaryen did not exist. Because goddamn, we're about to talk about one of the coolest fucking scenes this entire show has to offer.
Before we get to that, we do get the scene with Viserys like reaffirming to Rhaenyra that you are the heir. And so for me, I just thought that was like wholesome because, like you said, Chance, like he's not been the best dad in terms of like kind of supporting her as the heir or just supporting her as his daughter. And so I thought that was but it was kind of like milquetoast. It was kind of like a little haphazard. Like, even though he did say like you are my heir, it didn't feel as weighty as it should have.
I definitely agree with you on that. It felt like he was just fighting for ground, and he never truly found the right words that he was looking for to say to her, and it just came out like as a blurb, and then it came across as insincere to me, like he only half believed it. That's just
it's kind of telling with her response too, because she didn't say shit.
Yeah,
she turned around and just walked out like, okay,
not believe him at all.
All right.
As you should know. Once again, he's the most indecisive mother effer that there is. Why would she believe him? Why would she take his word for truth? And obviously, once again, throw back to my rant about 25-30 minutes ago about this scene. I think it's brilliant. And once again, Viserys is just acting his balls off, whoever that actor is. And I'm like, it's super intriguing. And once again, Rhaenyra and Alicent, best characters in the show thus far, if Daemon did not exist, because she does the right thing and the most correct thing that this character is proven to do, and just walks the F out and just says, thank you, cool, I got your daddy's approval, but it's not it's, as Chance said, all she wants is the approval. All she wants is, she doesn't want the throne. She kind of wants her best friend back a little bit. And now that she doesn't have that, all she wants is full and true, the dad setting her aside and being like, listen, I love you and I care about you and I want what's best for you. And he does it to some regard by saying, play with your heart, as I've done. But even then, it's still not, she's lost all faith in him, it kind of feels
Well, yeah,
like.
and even at the beginning of
on.
that conversation, her real frustration was clear when he was like, well, what do you think? Because we're going to go help Daemon and them with the war. And she's like, you never cared about my opinion before. Like, that was the real, this is, like, you're being an asshole. You never asked my opinion. You should have been asked my opinion this whole time. Let me help. Being the heir.
Next up we get House Valerion and Daemon on the Stepstones, and they are not doing as hot as they think they would be at this point. They're able to dominate, any battle out in the open, but the crab feeder and pirates are not leaving those caves, not unless they need to. And obviously the dragon cannot fit in there. They're trying to figure out a plan to take them out. And then we get a message. I can't remember who the character was or what house or whatever, but a knight or whatever messenger brings that message.
Straight from the king.
Yeah, straight from the king. King Viserys sent a message pledging support. 2,000 men. 2,000 men in what? 10 ships, 20 ships.
And
something
who gets
like that.
hurt? Yep. The messenger.
Yeah, kill the messenger.
For no reason.
Literally.
Yeah. So again, like their forces at that point were like 700. So this is like a huge increase in forces. I'm assuming the Crab Eater's army are around 700 or less, since they're like playing in that guerrilla warfare. But what did you guys think about Daemon's reaction to this? Like, you'd think he would like the help, but do you guys think it's just his pride, his ego? He wanted to do it his way, without any, help, interference.
I think because he started out on this by himself, he wanted to finish it and kind of prove himself. And so by having to ask brother for help and getting brother to help, it kind of defeats like why he set out on this task to begin with. Because like he really wanted to make a name for himself outside of just being the king's brother. So that's kind of it took me a while because I found it like very interesting. I thought he would have been like stoked. Okay, let's go mess him up. Like once the King's Guard or whatever get here. However, I'm glad he chose the route he chose because goddamn.
Yeah.
He doesn't give a shit about this war. He doesn't. He's way above this. There's no reason for him to prove himself on this battlefield, especially when the king isn't giving him the light of day. And now that the king steps in, is just like, oh, I'm gonna help you out. He's like, are you freaking kidding me? I've been at war for about you got to assume at least a year, probably we know the kids too, probably at least 2 years. And so freaking it's a move where he's like, well, if the king's men show up, I lost my entire reason for this. We got to make the move now, and the move that we get, oh my gosh, y'all, come on, this is the reason we love this show as much as we do. So
so the Valyrian forces are like they say it at the beginning of the episode, but they're like not really happy with Daemon's leadership. Vaemond, Corlys's older brother, I'm assuming, is just like flat out like, dude, this guy sucks to like their whole army. Which one is like,
Daemon's not that great, bro.
That was shocking, and Corlys calls him out on it. Like,
I was confused when he said he's hurting us more than helping. I wanted a little bit more explanation on that.
I would read it.
Probably going. Bret, go ahead.
Oh, I read into that of just like Targaryen arrogance with the dragons and fighting a battle a completely different way. Obviously,
or maybe
Rhaenyra has a
men, I guess.
Rhaenyra has a dragon.
First stomp.
Yeah. I think that just harks back to like the nature of the dragons, just being these unpredictable forces of terror / Targaryen arrogance.
I thought that the most likely Daemon's battle strategy for the past few years has been, we have the bigger sword because we have the dragon per se, and let's just send men in and ignore the battle tactics of understanding the fact that these men have the caves and you're playing into them and you're allowed to. The archers during this episode, and were even shown early in the episode of just firing off. If you're playing into them and they have archers, sure, the dragons come into play. But the second you're in the cave, the dragons are a non-factor. You're just losing men. You're not winning this war if you're playing into them and playing into the caves and playing into what they want you to do. And there's a reason that a war that should be, the second you have dragons, the ultimate trump card in this world, the fact that those are a non-factor, you're probably not going to win. And of course, the dragons kind of come into play later, but it definitely starts out on foot that this war is really get to kick off. And man, oh man, it like, yeah, what you said of Targaryen arrogance of just being like, of course we're gonna win. We have the dragons, we have the men. But ignoring battle strategy, which is we're playing into their hand and we're playing into their archers and we're playing into their caves where the freaking dragons are non-factors. Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough bid, and I would, if I was in that army, I'd be like also questioning throwing my body into these caves where I know I'm not coming out.
Yeah. It makes me think of the line from Daenerys. I can't remember if she's talking to what's his face? I'm blanking on the name. The dude that hangs out with Daenerys like the whole time.
Wormtail.
No.
Not Wormtail. That's fucking Harry Potter.
No, that's
Grey
Lord of the
Worm.
Rings.
Lord of the Rings, yeah. Why am I blanking
Wait.
on his name right now?
I'm thinking of
Right.
Wormtongue. You're right. It's from Harry Potter.
Yeah,
Wormtail is Harry
Wormtail is Harry.
Potter.
Wormtail is Harry Potter, and Grey Worm is
That's
the
right.
guy from
Thank
the
you.
the guy who
Are you
does
talking
not
about
have the junk.
the one who was in love with her, or the one who was like her?
Oh yeah,
The one who was in love with her, the one that gets grayscale.
Yeah. What's his name? I'm
Wait, let's
totally
talk
just
about- I forgot his name.
blanking
I
on.
forgot his name also.
I know who you're
but-
talking about.
But yeah, that doesn't matter. But Daenerys is talking about like the fall of the Targaryen dynasty, and she's like, once we lost the dragons, we were just like everybody else. So that does play into the arrogance that the Targaryens have, especially when they have the dragons. But yeah, we continue on. Oh, you want to say something, Vegas?
No.
Oh, okay. We continue on with Daemon just sailing, onto the beach. We get this awesome voiceover from Paddy Considine, the actor of Viserys, reading out the letter that he wrote to Daemon, and Daemon's just rowing into the beach where the
Like,
pirates
"Fuck this."
are hiding out in, and I don't know about you guys. I thought he like literally was waving the white flag and was just like, kill me. Like I don't.
Yeah, like he would
I thought he-
rather
yeah.
surrender than
And-
let
yeah.
his brother help. And I'm like, damn, that is some.
I thought he was going
Ballsy
to
shit.
recruit
No, so-
them, if I'm being real. Like when he like came over with the white flag, I thought he was
Yeah.
gonna be like, "Yo, I can't fucking take my brother no more. Y'all want? You guys know what's up. Like you want to over to King's Landing." That's what I thought was gonna go down. And
I
then,
thought-
Oh,
yeah,
I thought what he did was
I
what was going to happen, but
okay.
at first I was
Vegas,
like, wow,
I
he
thought-
would rather surrender. And then when he was standing there with the sword, I'm like, he's not going to surrender.
yeah.
I thought he wasn't going to surrender, but my thought was he's not going to surrender. And I thought Game of Thrones was going to be kick-ass Game of Thrones, where we were going to have a moment where he just goes up against 100+ men, and then he gets beat. I thought the dragon was going to come in, but I still
Ooh,
thought he was going to
yeah.
get beat. Where like I was like, the dragon's going to come into play eventually, because of course it is. This game is not called the House of Swords; it's called the House of fucking Dragons for a reason. But I thought that it was going to be a last stand, and his dragon was going to go out with him, sword on the ground, and holy cow, was way fucking cooler. So I'll take that instead. I'd rather be wrong than and get something awesome than be right and get something less good. So this was just Bret, as you talk us through this scene, I'm just gonna sit back. And my opinion on this entire next 15 minutes of Game of Thrones is, holy shit, this is awesome. This is why I love this show. Awesome fight choreography. Nick Evans is out. That was awesome. Bret, take us through.
Yeah, I want to talk about the music at this point too. It was very somber before the battle and during the battle. But yeah, Daemon is not waving the white flag. It is a false flag operation, literally, where he is just setting them up to come on out. And I want to talk about the Targaryens. They do have like a sort of psychic connection with dragons. That's how like Drogon in Game of Thrones is able to come to Daenerys' rescue because he knows like she's in trouble. Which that I thought that was awesome. Just like that little edge to help them out in the battle.
Real quick, when he got shot with the arrow in the beginning of the episode, the dragon roared. I felt like that was a really good showing of that connection. Continue.
Yeah, no, exactly. Brilliant. That's brilliant. Yeah, the Valyrian army is in pursuit. They show up to help in this battle after Daemon takes out like 10, 15 dudes, but there's still like a ton more coming out. I assume the Valyrians just saw him rowing the boat when they're on that like hilltop, and they're like, "We can't let this guy die. Like he's the brother of the king. Like we can't just let this guy do that." But yeah, we get this incredible battle of just two different awesome the Valyrian's armor looks super cool. Like just awesome set design, costume design. Great battle with this like muddy, wet beach. And then we get Rhaenyra and his freaking dragon, dude. I don't even know what that dragon's called. Again, this dragon looks so unique. Like I love how they all look so different. Like it just adds to the individuality of the dragons and the dragon riders. And he's just burning up all the archers, just kicking ass. What do we think of this battle? Nick, you already talked a little bit about it, but Vegas, was this battle freaking awesome or what?
It was absolutely awesome. Every time I see arrows, though, you know what I think about. Little Stark running out in the middle of nowhere.
Okay.
Exactly.
Hearing knock and then loose. I was like, we are back in one of the
and that was what one arrow, and
television.
this guy's dodging like 200 arrows and gets hit by like 2 or 3.
He gets hit eventually.
I'm so happy he got hit. Holy shit! If he
got hit like what,
three
times.
He got hit 3 times.
About 3 times. About 3 times. But I'm like, this is like 200 arrows. There's no way.
I'm not a medieval warfare expert, but I assuming those guys are just shooting blankly and hoping. That they're just going for numbers there, right?
Yeah, like
with as many that were being shot at one time, though. Anyways.
In the post-credit thing, they did talk about how they wanted to show Daemon's fighting style and about like how he is like the actor himself. I forget his name. Was like
Matt Smith.
He has like a very I don't give a fuck if I live like attitude towards fighting.
Absolutely.
And, like, in life in general, and so they really wanted to show that. And I guess like during the filming, that actor got like very head into the sand and like really took it all, and it shows. Like he definitely, it was like some John Wick shit going on, dodging all them arrows.
It was great. It was absolutely amazing acting, and he was just flipping and turning and
head down was that's like he almost looked like a bull that just charging in.
Yeah, he turned his humanity off.
Life was so visceral and intense, and like I said, I'm trying my best to shut up because I'm as I do talk so freaking much during these podcasts, but it's so unbelievable, the shots. And once again, like just thank God he got hit, but the arrows are coming in. He doesn't care. It's almost anime. His arms are behind him, and he's like high stepping in as he's charging forward and just freaking cutting body after body after body. And how are you not just seeing that? Like me and my roommate, we are holding on to each other as we're like almost falling over with how intense and amazing this scene is. It's the 3rd episode. We're not at an episode 9, which Game of Thrones is known for the episode 9s and the episode 10s. We're at the 3rd episode, and we're getting this amount of glory. Just like all hands down, bowing down to the HBO exec as they take our freaking money as they deservedly should. Because
and there's a moment where you think that he's gonna go down. Like he gets shot and he's like laying down, and you're like, oh shit, this is it. And then he's like, nah, I'm back. And then everybody's coming in. That was when the dragon came in, and then it was like, yeah. It was one of those scenes though where like you kind of didn't know who to root for in a way. Like, of course you want to root for Daemon. He's fucking awesome. But like you also have to take a step back and like he just like dissed his brother in a real weird way. And then like this also means there's definitely going to be a war between the Daemon and
Viserys.
yeah. The Valerians. The Daemon and Valerians.
Valerians.
I did really like the
the
imagery
king.
of him holding up the
Oh,
crab feeder, and he was
the
cutting
weird
it,
Yeah.
angle of the
dude, and, like,
slice.
you
Dude,
could
that was
see
like
it was so
the guts.
yeah.
That was that was like a uniquely brutal death for a Game of Thrones Song of Ice and Fire world. Like, usually it's like the throat or like in this battle he like cuts the dude like in the stomach and like to his like balls or something like that, or like balls
he guts him. He goes from like his belly button up
His
through
gut
like his ribs
up to the neck.
and then it
Oh,
like
okay.
falls down on the ground. That's why they go to the ground. Like that's like
Yeah,
his
yeah.
gut's falling up.
Gotcha.
Which
By the way,
I
Bret,
love it.
yeah, Bret, this is also the moment where I gotta just like let you know I'm in on Daemon. He's the best character in this show at this point. I wanted to be a contrarian. I wanted to root for Allison as my hero, but Daemon in this moment, how are you not just absolute like as a fan of the show? And I'm not talking to Bret. I'm not talking to Chance. I'm not talking to Vegas. I'm talking to you. How are you not all in at this point on this character? Sure, he's a dick, but god damn, is he not just so awesome in this moment? How are you not just losing your mind as he takes on? Because the best part is like the war around him goes, and then once again we're back to Naruto running, just as he just flies into this cave, and we don't see the kill, which very obviously you expect Game of Thrones for them to show off the gore in the most visceral way. But the crab, I love the crab villain here is he's never been the swordsman. He's never been the fighter. He's been the tactical advantage guy, using his crabs as feeders compared to slitting throats and chopping off balls like Daemon. But surely enough, the second he gets in there against him, of course Daemon's going to win, not just because plot armor or whatever, but because he's the better swordsman, he's the better fighter. And walking out with that hand in hand as his body is just non-existent, like the cut is so visceral where it's not even like you get half the stomach. Like you don't, it's not like a clean chop down the middle. It's not a clean this. It's just like a PB&J when you're in the third grade. It's cut down the triangle, and it's oh my gosh, it's nasty and delicious and amazing, and oh my gosh, I love this episode. And of course this podcast, it will never be under an hour because we love this show this much. But man, oh man, I am still here for it. My neighbors, they're like screaming at me to leave. I will stand strong finishing out the podcast as we go into this last 10-15 minutes because it is so damn good. And I will play this clip for them down the line, and they will hate me for it, but I will love this show more than they will hate me. Bret, take us home.
Yeah, and the episode just ends in a he's just standing there with a body just standing there, and I was like, please end like right now. I was like, please stop it. I don't want to like what Game of Thrones is so good at is like showing like the epilogue of episodes or stories, like season 1 of Game of Thrones, Ned dies and I'm like, what the hell? And then there's like another episode after that, right? Like I was like, but this I was like, please end like right now, and then it just cuts to black and I'm like, yes, let's go. Like what an incredible way to end it. Like I still raw, still fresh, but like this was like one of the best episodes in a long time. Obviously a few years removed from Thrones, but like this, I thought this was an incredible episode. But as we wind down here, just round table from everybody real quick. Closing thoughts of this episode or just going forward. Vegas, I'll start with you.
I think this episode was amazing. We got everything that we could want. The political aspects, the battles. I think personally, I'm going to make a little prediction. Alicent, who has become very decision making, and she's got her hands in the game pretty much. I think that she might change her mind down the road. I think that she's got everybody's best interest at heart, but I think that she's going to start siding with her son at some point. And you know, everybody who's in the game, because you saw her sitting in that round table of women, they get catty, they get hungry, power hungry, and she's gonna want her son to succeed. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Nick, any closing thoughts?
Bret, you and I were on stream last night discussing how badly it's going to suck to wait for the 4th episode, even without seeing the 3rd one. And that remains true. Before I hopped on the podcast, I had to grab food. I hadn't eaten since like 3 today, and I obviously just hopped on as fast as I could. Still haven't eaten. I am so excited for NFL football next week. I could not give a flying fuck what the Sunday night game is. I couldn't care. You could not. If it is the Patriots, which is my team, I don't care. This is the most appointment viewing that we will have for the next 7 weeks. It is the most appointment viewing that we've had in the past 3 years. Get your popcorn ready. I will go. I always rewatch the episodes after they're finished, for not only because we're doing this podcast, I want to make sure I'm well versed, but most importantly because they're fucking awesome. I'm gonna watch that last 20 minutes probably 6 times this week. Like I'm like, that is just such amazing. Oh, just so good. It's so good. And thanks for having me as always as we close this out. It's always such a pleasure to talk to friends about this show. And Chance, thanks for the edit of allowing me to come in late, because this is just amazing.
Yeah. Chance, any closing thoughts on this episode?
Really excited to see where we're going. I have a feeling we're gonna see an older Rhaenyra next week. That's my like. I think it's gonna be at the end of the episode. Something happens, and we jump and we see her. I'm really excited to see where these characters go, but I specifically think that Rhaenyra and Daemon are gonna get closer in these last few episodes. I think as what Vegas said, I like when she said that, I immediately was like, yo, that's the shit. I think Alicent is going to become more interested in her own children's well-being, and I think that's going to kind of like drive Rhaenyra away further from the royal family, and I think that's going to lead her straight into her uncle's arms.
Interesting. Yeah, I've already said it a lot, but yeah, fantastic episode. Yeah, man, yeah, it could go so many ways. Yeah, so many different
Could.
factions and alliances. But yeah, again, thanks for everybody watching and listening on this episode. I believe this is our longest episode yet, I'm assuming.
We're at about an hour and a half, so not quite. Close.
Okay.
Jeez.
Close. Yeah, this was awesome to record. I'll just say that now. Like, the energy here was amazing. But make sure to leave the likes, comments, all that good stuff. 5 stars. But yeah, we will see you guys next Monday for episode 4, King of the Narrow Sea. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and yeah, we'll see you next week.
See ya.
Bye.